All right, I'm making a donut, and I'm gonna make it good. So I need to make donut. I need keyboard, and with keyboard I can make donut. And with that I can make donut. Donut. Okay, I got my key with its board, and we got donut. All right, I make donut, and it's gonna be pretty fancy because it's gonna be a donut, and who doesn't like donuts? Because donut, long donut. Because my keyboard is connected. Now that I have keyboard connected, I shall make donut. Percent share screen. Okay. So I shall make the donut. Okay. I'm streaming thing. Fuck the yard. Okay, time to waste like 4 hours. Alright, time to waste like a couple of hours. Okay, let me share it in a different way. Let me share full screen because I'm gonna share full screen because wait, no, stop streaming, percent share file, all of it. Yes. Okay. All right, time to watch and make Blender.
Well, first of all, just to repeat, make sure you are working with a new scene, completely new. Let's delete our default cube, A. And as I mentioned before, new object, you might remember the hotkey for that is Shift A.
Okay, Shift
and
A.
as I mentioned before, you usually want what is underneath mesh because these are your primitives. So we want to start with something that most resembles what it is we're building. You know, if it was a house, you might start with a cube. If it was a vase, you might start with a cylinder. In our case, we want the donut-shaped one, although mathematicians call it a torus for some reason. So let's add that. Now, if I zoom in by scrolling up, we can see we have something resembling a donut. Looks like a pretty weak looking donut, you know, very flimsy. Looks like the donut before it's cooked when they just drop it into the vat and it's just this little wispy thing. So immediately after you do some actions in Blender, you have options to change it. And the options are hidden down here in the bottom left-hand corner. You see a little box. And if you click that box, you see options. And look, we can change the dimensions of our torus. Now, something to note is that these options in Blender only appear immediately after you have done that action. If you do another action, like say deselect your torus by mistake, it's gone. Right? Because Blender has assumed you have moved on. You've accepted the state of your donut, and this is the one you want, right? Now, if you haven't done anything drastic or changed this object in some severe way, you can temporarily bring it back by hitting F9. I never actually remember that hotkey. I just remember that immediately after I have added an object, if I want to tweak it, now's my chance before I move on to something else. Okay. So we could change, you know, the size of it here. We can also change the resolution. I'll use the term resolution loosely to make it higher or lower fidelity. And a mistake that a lot of beginners make, and I say this because this was the exact mistake I made way back in 2003 when I started learning Blender, is they go, well, I need a realistic looking donut, so I guess I need to go really high resolution. I remember my first project, one of my first projects was for a high school film project, and I wanted to have a close-up of a face. Didn't realize faces were going to be difficult, but I went really high poly, and then it was just an absolute nightmare to work with. So the reason you don't want this is that, for starters, things that are high poly are very slow to render, and they're very hard to work with if you want to tweak the shape of it. But also,
I
as you
really wanna-
learn and you grow with 3D, you'll discover that it is a lot easier to add resolution to something later on, but it is very difficult to take it away if you've already built it into it and you don't need it. So, long way to say, what we actually want is to have as few polys, these are called polys, as you can get away with. So I'm going to go with 32 major and 12 minor. And don't worry that it looks all jagged because we will fix that in a moment. Now, the major and minor, this is really up to you, but I find that something that looks it's kind of chunky, like a fat donut, just looks really delicious. So I'm going with something around about this size, okay? And once I'm happy with this, once I'm ready to click off, I click off, the options are gone, and this is it. This is the donut that I am now working with. So how do we make this look higher resolution, less jagged? Well, one way is to use smooth shading. So if you right click with your object selected,
why does this donut
options are gone.
look like mine? This one, okay, I think I know what to do. I think no. Yes. The thick? No. Hey, is it just me or this donut is looking kind of thick? Oh god, no! Well, my PC, it's fuming. Okay, let me just turn it out. There, it looks kind of thick. Okay. Let me see chat. Okay, so thanks, Nate. I'm pretty sure you're the only one here. Please join. No, let me pin this. No. Put user in timeout. Ban user and delete their comments. Donut. Yes. Donut. Truly a donut moment. This has got to be up like a 5-hour stream. I'm crying. Dude, just drop. Okay, no.
On, and this is it. This is the donut that I am now working with. So how do we make this look higher resolution, less jagged? Well, one way is to use smooth shading. So if you right click with your object selected, go to shade smooth.
Okay. Oh god.
Look at that. This is immediately better. Without getting too technical, this is kind of a fakery. It's sort of like the shader is telling the renderer that this is a really high poly dense mesh when it really isn't. It's just basically kind of like averaging out faces. And anyway, it's very technical, but basically means it's not going to add anything to your render time, but it's going to look smoother. And so this is generally what you want for something that is smooth and organic looking, like we.
¿De qué sabor quieres el boli? Boli.
No quiero boli ahora mismo. Ok, bueno. Uno de corozo. De tamarindo. Okay.
We want. If you were rendering like architectural or like hard surfaces, like later on we're going to put this on a counter, then the object would obviously want to be flat. But in our case, we're just going to use shade smooth. But you might notice that looking at this, especially if you go side on, that you've got this sort of jagged shape around here, right? So the silhouette is really breaking that illusion that this is a high poly or a smooth looking donut. But thankfully, rather than adding all of that complex density into the mesh itself and then making it hard to remove later on, there is another way through modifiers. So if we go over here to our properties, right, this very confusing, lots of option looking properties, click on the wrench, and this is the section called modifiers. And this is one of those object dependent things. So if you've got your camera selected, you won't see it. So it's only when you've got actual meshes that you might see this modifier here. So it's much easier to explain if we just add one. So up here, add modifier, and you got a range of options here that can do a whole number of things. The one that we're looking for is underneath generate, and it is called subdivision surface. And it is a really common modifier. Subdivision surface. What we're looking for is underneath generate, and it is called subdivision surface. And it is a really common modifier that you use all the time. In fact, it's so common, it's actually, you can just immediately add it to any object just by hitting Control 1. but don't do that because we've already got it. So there. Now, some of you might have just discovered that your donut has disappeared. If that is the case, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, and then underneath Viewport, where it's got Subdivision at the very bottom, Disable GPU Subdivision. That will then...
My GPU can handle it. Your guys' GPU doesn't. My GPU is just built different. Oh God, what did I do? What did I do? No. Okay, my donut is just built different, while you guys' donut is not. Oh wait, does my mouse teleport? Oh my God, is this a Portal 1 reference? Is this a Portal? Oh shit. Is this a Portal reference? Okay, check it.
Tamarindo para el
Ya voy.
Tamarindo para el
Okay, I'm back. Okay. I'm back. What has happened yet? Donut from Beefy die. GPU game chair? No. Nate left. Nate left. Oh, did Nate left? No. I can't believe it. He left. I feel betrayed. He left 1 minute ago. Well,
then make the subdivision perform on your CPU instead of your GPU, which is maybe non-existent or not performing, whatever. But disable that and it should appear. But if it's already working for you, don't disable it. Keep it going because GPU will be faster. So what exactly is this doing? Well, it's a lot easier to explain if we look at the shade flat mode, because we're not being tricked by the smooth shading there. If I set this levels viewport to 0, this is our original mesh. This is before we add the subsurface, essentially. When we increase this, you can see that it is adding resolution to our mesh. And the more I increase this viewport levels here, the finer and finer that detail becomes. So to explain it, because this is such a very, very common modifier, it's kind of important to understand how it's working. You can see that this is these squares here, these are called faces, by the way. Okay. And for each one of these faces here, as I add a level, you can see it's becoming 4 faces, right? Okay. And then now if I zoomed in on this one face here, if I do another level, that's now become 4 faces. And then if I zoom in again, it's now become 4 faces. So it's exponentially adding detail. And you might also know that it is smoothing it out as well. Like this jagged edge that we've got here, you can see now becomes smoother. So to quickly visualize that, if I just draw it, like imagine you've got like a 90-degree fire. What did the extra be? Really? So there we go. 2 options here. You've got levels viewport and levels render. So reminder, this gray area that we operate, you could see if I just turned it off for the viewport, it looks very jagged. But then for my render, if I increase that to 3, if I do my render, which you could go up there and render image, or remember the hotkey F12, you can see that that donut is now smooth, but I go back and you can see it's jagged. So the viewport, you want to generally keep it with to the ceiling. Okay, so we have a perfect donut, and that's the problem. It's too perfect. You could spend decades trying to develop a machine in the real world that made a donut this perfect, and you never would. This is so mathematically precise that the eye will always see this as looking fake. So that's actually a problem you learn pretty quickly in 3D, that things that are too perfect just look fake. So you have to spend time making things look misshapen and adding variation there,
Okay.
like you see in the real world, because your eye expects to see it. So how do we do that? How do we make this donut look a little more lumpy and interesting? I do that by changing the mesh itself. So this mode that we are in right now, where we can, click on different objects, is called object mode. And I know that because in the top left-hand corner, you can see we are in object mode. But if I click the drop down, you can see I get a number of other options here. And these options, again, will change depending on the object you've got selected. If I've got a lamp, my little light there selected, you can see I've only got object mode. My camera, I've only got object mode. But a mesh will give you extra options here. So let's enter into edit mode. Ooh. Right. Now, you can see our mesh, our object has become something that looks weird. It's got a bunch of little points on it with lines and very technical. Well, that's because this is actually what the mesh is made up of. These little points here, which you can click on just by selecting, are called your vertices. The singular term is called vertex. I never say that. I like to just call all of them vertices, regardless of whether it's one or two, just because you always get some comments that go, actually, it's called vertex if it is singular. Anyway, so these are called your vertices. And if you have two of them joined by a line, that is called an edge. And if you have four of them with these, and if I want to move this, then I would simply tap G, right? And you can see it's now attached to my cursor. And then if I want to confirm its movement, I just do a single left click, and there it is. Now, if I go back into object mode, like that, you can see that my mesh has changed, okay? And by the way, the hotkey for jumping in and out of object and edit mode is just tab, okay? So you can see it's just toggling between those two modes because it's so common that you want to just quickly change things that it's just easily accessible by that.
What am I doing?
Now, this is okay, right? But you can see it's got like some artifacting. It's like, it's not the greatest lump, right? So how do we make it look a little more natural? Well, I mean, you could, you move one, drag it out, okay, click, and then I move the next one next to it, right? I'll move that out, and then I'll move this one out a little bit, and then I move this one. And it's like, okay, well now I've got the thing, but it took me like 5 actions. Ridiculous, right? No one wants to do that. No one's got time for that. Thankfully, there is a tool in Blender just for this, and it's called proportional editing, and you can enable it up there in your toolbar. So if you enable that, now if I hit G and I move it out, you will see I get a little ring around my cursor there, and that is now changing the mesh around it. Now, a lot of people in my previous tutorials were like, I don't see what's going on. You have to have something selected first, and then when you hit G, you will see that little circle of influence. Okay. Now, we make it look a little more, the next one, and then I move this one. No one wants to do that. No one's got time for that. Thankfully, there is a tool in Blender just for this, and it's called proportional editing, and you can enable it up there in your toolbar. So if you enable that, now if I hit G and I move it out, you will see I get a little ring around my cursor there, and that is now changing the mesh around it. Now, a lot of people in my previous tutorials were like, I don't see what's going on. You have to have something selected first, and that is now changing the mesh. See, I get a little
what is it?
time for that. Thankfully, there is a tool in Blender just for this, and it's called proportional editing, and you can enable it up there in your tool.
Proportional editing. Oh my god, what? Really? He was touching his arm. Something. He left. You bit. Okay. Why were things so gorbate? Oh yeah, gorbate. I thought Nate said, why are so many things spaced? Like, bro, what is bro yapping about? What does bro say? Shortcut? Oh, yeah. No, this is not what I want. G, okay. Time, Mr. Freeman? Time, Mr. Oh my god. What am I doing?
So if you enable that, now if I hit G and I move it out, you will see I get a little...
and I move it out. If I put it on and I enable G, and I move it up. I'm not seeing the funny thing. Where is it? Where's the funny thing at? Move it G and oh my god. No. It's not working. Why is it not working? No. Work. Oh, it's working. It is working. How? I have no clue. But still, it's working. Oh god. Huh? 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 Boop 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 boop. Oh my god, it's so confusing. Why is it a portal? My mouse is not even here. It's like I feel like I'm controlling something different. Like, why are you here? It feels so weird. Like my mouse is not supposed to be here. Huh? And I did nothing. Fuck. Okay, control C. G. Yeah, it works, but doesn't always work out. It just works sometimes because it starts with. Okay, now up. Okay, tutorial time. Like, what is going on?
Ring around my cursor there, and that is now changing.
Okay. Zero and O. Shift 0. What is going on? Well, Shift O. Oh, what the fuck? Smooth. Okay, so it's doing something. That did something. Did I want it? No. Okay. That looks a little wonky. It looks too wonky. That looks weird. This is like my perfect donut from my donut world.
The mesh around it. Now, a lot of people in my previous tutorials were like, I don't see what's going on. You have to have something selected first, and then when you hit G, you will see that
I'm just
that little
very
circle
dumb.
of influence. Okay, now this circle of influence, if I scroll up, you can see it's shrinking its circle of influence. And if I scroll down, it is expanding its influence. So it's only going to affect what is in that that ring there, okay? If you are on, if you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can also change the influence by using page up and page down. And if you don't have page up or page down because you're on a Mac keyboard, then what you would have to do is go to key map and then change your page up and page down to something else just so that you could get around that. But guys, you got to get a mouse. Get a mouse with a scroll wheel. I think they're, 50 cents or just in the nearest landfill somewhere. Get a mouse because it's going to make your life in 3D a lot easier. Okay, so with this, I can now make quick work of lumpy shapes, okay? So I just drag that out. Okay, I've got a little lumpy shape there. Maybe I go down here and I pull this up just by hitting G.
Oh, so they just want me to, like, do some wonky stuff. Wonky stuff? Go brrr. Okay. Wait. I should, like, make my circle of influence a little bit bigger. Make this a little bit up. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty fine. Put it over here. G. Make my circle of influence, like, go a little bit to the left. Yeah. Yeah. Oh god, no. It doesn't look like a donut anymore. It has become some uncertain and consequenced smart fellow. Maybe a bit, no. A bit to the left. And it just looks a little bit maybe object mode. Let me It looks wonky. Edit mode? There's a sculpt mode? What the fuck? Okay. Okay. Down. No. Down. Down. Yeah. Middle. Just no. Fuck. What is going on? Oh god, no. Did something wrong. It has turned on itself. Okay, I'm pretty sure that. No, I'm pretty sure this is good. It's a little bit wonky, but I can work with this. I can work with this.
Moving it up. Okay. So already this is looking a little more natural, right? Because even if we were making a stylized world for a Pixar movie or something like that, you can't have just a spherical looking donut. Sorry, spherical, round looking circular donut because it just.
Oh, so insecurity. Oh, so I get it now. Kind of get it. So they just want me to like make it a little bit bad-ish. How bad can it possibly be? How bad? No, never mind. I'm not gonna sing that song. No, it ain't good for the algorithm. Okay, okay. They understood my point. Thank you, Blunder. You understood me. I understood you. Sort of. Okay, let me go off edit mode. Let me go to object mode. It looks kind of wonky. I guess that's what I'm working. It starts with something, man. You can't judge on my donut, especially if it's not.
Your eye will see it as fake. So very quickly, I'm able to add a little bit of variation to the donut, just all around it, just a little bit over here.
Just a little bit. God, no, just a little bit to the left. Just grab something random. Get to a little bit over here. Okay. Grab this part. Put it a little bit over. It's so good. Why is it so good? It's like so, no. Oh god, donut too weird. Must go back. It looks like fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's just the donut. Okay, but it's supposed to be to look wonky, and I want wonkiness. I must do what the tutorial guy says. Okay, I think it looks wonky enough. I guess. Yeah. Okay. It's fine. It's gonna look good when it has the frosting stuff. It's complicated.
And you can see that I am just changing my circle of influence.
Okay. Maybe a bit, like, maybe it has to be a bit tall. Grab one random thing. Scale a bit up. I set. Scale a bit up. Make it like a bit over here. Oh god, now I'm making a bean. Okay. Looks wonky enough to me. Time for the next step.
Influence depending on what size of a lump I want to make. So I just want to make like a little bit that sticks out. I can make a small circle just by scrolling up like that. And you just want to do that until you get something that looks a little more natural. I might want to make the inner part as well. We just drag that in with a smaller circle. And that's pretty good. Let's just have a look from the top. I might actually just drag that out, make it a little bit more like that.
No, what did I do? What did I do? What is that? Okay. Okay, it looks a little bit square shaped. But like we can fix the square shapedness by making it look less square shaped. Yeah, it looks kind of wonky now. I get it. I have completely ruined the form of my donut. But, I get it. I get it now. My donut is looking good. Donut from Beefy Dog. It's been 20 minutes since that.
But there you go. That's pretty good for a donut. It's still kind of simple. It's not too detailed, but it's got just enough variation in it that it's more interesting to look at. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention.
Oh, okay.
Go back into edit mode with tab.
Tab.
Donuts, when they're sitting in the little vat thing, right, they're only like half submerged. So then they have to be flipped. But it means that the bit that's nearest to the surface is getting less heat. So essentially what I'm saying is the bit that's around the donut, the circumference of it is usually a little bit flatter. So donuts aren't like perfectly round all the way around. They're usually a little bit flatter. So what I want to do is I want to select these vertices along and then I want to shrink them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could go around one by one like this, which is actually what I used to do when I was learning Blender pre-YouTube days and there was no tutorials. What I would do this if I wanted to select this. Silly, because there's a function, a tool for that, and it is edge select. So if you hold down Alt on your keyboard and then do a single left click on not the points, but on the edge, right, this little line here, you can see it's selected all the way around. So it's anything that's connected along that line is now selected. So if I want to shrink this, right, what would I do? Well, I mean, yeah, you could like move it around, right? We want to shrink it. We want to change the scale of it. So we would use the hotkey S for scale. So S, and I'm going to scale that in. And I actually don't want proportional editing. So I'm going to turn that off and now scale in and just make it a little bit flatter. And there you go. See, it just feels a little bit more natural, doesn't it? It looks a little bit closer to what a donut looks like. And by the way, don't worry if yours doesn't look exactly like this, like your lump is a little bit off. Like some people get a little bit too precious with the tutorial. Like, I got to match exactly everything I do. Like I'm just working on the fly as well. So just make what you think looks good. Maybe you think this is not misshapen enough and you want to add more, go for it because it might add is a little bit. So I'm going to turn that off and now scale in. In. And I actually don't want proportional editing. So I'm going to turn that scale. So S, and I'm going to scale that in. And I actually don't want proportional editing. So I'm going to turn that off and now scale in and just make it a little bit flatter. And there you go. See, it just feels a little bit more natural, doesn't it? It looks a little bit closer to what a donut looks like. And by the way, don't worry if yours doesn't look exactly like this, like your lump is a little bit off. Like some people get a little bit too precious with the tutorial. Like, I got to match exactly everything I do. Like I'm just working on the fly as well. So just make what you think looks good. Maybe you think this is not misshapen enough and you want to add more, go for it because it might actually turn out better than what mine is. Now, before we move to the next part, how to save. Blender, very, very easy. You just go save as, and you just get one file. It's called .blend. Very literal file extension, really pushing the limits of what a file extension can be. That's almost a word, Blender. Anyway, .blend, and that's it. And then next time you open it up, it's exactly like it. It's not like ZBrush where you got like 4 or 5 different ways to save a project or an object or a tool or a... Hate ZBrush. Okay. That's how you save. Now, also, finally, I would say if you need help, because I know if you're stuck and then you leave a YouTube comment, you might not get a reply. If you want immediate help, I've got a Discord. So I'll put the link below. So there's like a little channel in there where you can just ask for specific donut help. So if you're having issues, feel free to jump into that. And also, guys, don't beat yourself up. Like 3D is definitely has like a steep-ish learning curve. So you're in that steep slope right now. And it's really common. Like a lot of this stuff is very foreign. 3D is very unique. It's very different to a lot of 2D tools. But don't give up. Like it's definitely achievable to learn and self-learn at home. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to pay for a tutor. It's really easy to get help online nowadays. So do make use of that Discord. Post comments as well in the YouTube comments if you want to. But I hope you stay with it. So if you're ready to jump to the next part after you've saved your blend file, go ahead, click here, and I will see you there.
How do I save my blend file?
It's definitely achievable to learn and self-learn at home. You don't have to like now you got like 4 or 5 different ways to save. Very, very part. How to save. Blender, very, very easy. You just go save as and you just get one file.
Okay.
It's called .blend. Very literal file extension, really pushing the limits of what a file extension can be. That's almost a word, Blender. Anyway, .blend, and that's it. And then next time you open it up, it's exactly
Okay.
use and it's of 2D tools, but don't give up. Like it's definitely achievable to learn and self-learn at home. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to pay for a tutor. It's really easy to get help online nowadays. So do make use of that Discord. Post comments as well in the YouTube comments if you want to. But I hope you stay with it. So if you're ready to jump to the next part after you've saved your blend file, go ahead, click here, and I will see you there. Did you guys know that Blender 4.0 had a change that makes it more realistic by default? Or that there's a new technology that is going to expand the uses for 3D exponentially? Well, you would if you were on my free newsletter called This Week in 3D. It's an email from me once a week with 3 to 5 things that I found interesting that week from the world of 3D. So sometimes I share a new tool that I found, a remarkable tutorial, a new Blender feature, a news story that affects the industry. So click the link in the description, enter your email address, and then you will stay up to date on the world of 3D. It's always free and it's always written by me. Now, on to the tutorial. Welcome back to the Donut Show, where we make sad little donuts that we cannot eat. This is where we finished up at the end of part 1. We've got our nice looking donut, and now we're going to make that icing, which looks complex, but is actually fairly simple. Now, as I mentioned before, if you want to add an object, you go Shift-A, right? And then you start with something that resembles what you're trying to create. But we already have something that resembles the exact shape we want to create. It's the donut, because we want the icing around the donut. So let's just reuse this information. So we can do that by duplicating the object. And if you don't know the hotkey for it, you could just go Object, and then you'd find it here where it says Shift-D. So Shift-D.
Okay, Shift-D.
Now, when you hit that, you are in a placement state, essentially. Like it's duplicated, and it's now saying, where do you want to place it? Now, in our case, and actually often, you don't actually want to change its placement. You want to duplicate it exactly where it was. So you can cancel the movement by hitting Escape or right-clicking. Now, when you do that, it looks like it's canceled the duplication, but you can see in your outliner, it has duplicated it. You've got 2 objects, but it's just in the exact same place, which is what we want. So you can cancel the movement by hitting Escape or right-clicking. Now, when you do that, it looks like it's canceled the duplication, but you can see in your outliner, it has duplicated it. You've got 2 objects, but it's just in the exact same place, which is what we want. So first things first, we need to name them, or else we could get very confused very easily. So you can name an object by just double-clicking it in the outliner, and then just typing in the object. The other way you can name something, I'll just show you the second way. If you select the Taurus 0.001, that's your icing object. If you're in the 3D view, where your cursor, is over the 3D viewport, if you hit F2, that's another very quick way that you can name something without having to go up to the outliner to find your object. So with our icing object selected, let's go into edit mode by hitting Tab. So we want the icing on the top, which means this bottom half of our mesh here is redundant. Don't need it. So we want to delete it. So if we just dragged over the bottom here, you can see it looks like we've selected the bottom half of our donut. But if you were to move around, you would see, oh, we haven't actually. It's only selected, annoyingly, So we want the icing on the top, which means this bottom half of our mesh here is redundant. Don't need it. So we want to delete it. So if we just dragged over the bottom here, you can see it looks like we've selected the bottom half of our donut. But if you were to move around, you would see, oh, we haven't actually. It's only selected, annoyingly, what is facing the camera. Where there's a mesh, it's not gone through the mesh. A lot of users find this annoying. I agree. Sometimes it seems like that would be the more default one that would make more sense. But anyway, don't want to argue. So if you want to select through a mesh, you can go up to here. in your top navigation, toggle X-ray. If you turn that on, it's going to enable you to see through the mesh. And now when I drag over it, you can see that I have selected all through the mesh as I move around it. By the way, you might find it like when you're in this state, it's kind of hard to select. Like it's easy to kind of accidentally select what is above it. And depending on what you've got at your end, that might have happened already. So another way to easily just look directly on the side on of your donut is to just click one of these, like in your gizmo here, instead of just dragging around, just do a single click on either the green one or the red one, the X or the Y. And now we're in that state. You can see it's flattened it. So it's put you in orthographic mode, which actually you can toggle to at any time, just over there, which just makes it easier to just do a single, all the way through the mesh, select. All right. Okay. All right. So we want to delete that. So just hit the delete key. You get an extra option here of what do you want to delete: edges, faces. You want the vertices. That's everything. And now we have, if we go back to object mode, and then let's turn off toggle X-ray as well. And you can see it's working. We got half the donut on top of it. Go back, faces. You want the vertices. That's just hit the delete. Select. All right. Okay. All right. So we want to delete that. So just hit the delete key. You get an extra option here of what do you want to delete: edges, faces. You want the vertices. That's everything. And now we have, if we go back to object mode, and then let's turn off toggle X-ray as well. And you can see it's working. We got half the donut on top of itself. But as you move around, you can see you get some flickering. Now, this flickering happens, and it's actually a very common, it's actually a good warning sign to you as an artist, because it means you've got faces on top of faces.
Wait, how?
And now, option here of what do you want to delete: edges, faces. You want the vertices. That's everything. And now we have, if we go back to object mode, and then let's turn off toggle X-ray as well. And you can see it's working. We got half the donut on top of itself. But as you move around, you can see you get some flickering. Now, this flickering happens, and it's actually, as you move around, you can see you get some flickering. Now, this flickering happens, and it's actually a very common, it's actually a good warning sign to you as an artist, because it means you've got faces on top of faces, and the 3D software doesn't know which face it wants to render. Right. So it's like sometimes saying it's the front face, no, the back face, the front face. And there's no understanding. Sometimes you can actually spot it in TV shows and like VFX or like low budget stuff. You can see something flickering in the background. And I'm like, ooh, there it is. Z fighting. That's what it's called. Z fighting, or Z fighting if you're not American. So what we want to do is we want to give thickness to our icing. So we can do that with a solidify modifier. So adding another modifier, make sure you've got your icing selected, not your donut. And then here where you've got add modifier, we're going to go generate solidify. Okay. To our icing. So we can do that with a solidify modifier. So adding another modifier, make sure you've got your icing selected, not your donut. And then here where you've got add modifier, we're going to go generate solidify. Okay. Now it's made it worse. It's actually added a thickness to our mesh there, but it's actually done it the wrong way. So it's with the normals. Yeah, what is it? It's trying to put the extra bit inside the donut. So we can change that by just changing the offset here in the solidifier settings. Just drag that all the way to 1. Some of you might have actually found that it was correct before, just depending on which way your normals were. If that's the case, keep it at -1, but everyone else keep it at 1. We just want to make sure it's actually outside. Okay. Let's just increase the thickness a little bit too. Let's go, yeah, point.
Oh my donuts.
Let's just increase the thickness a little bit too. Let's go, yeah, 0.025. That looks pretty good. And great. We've got what looks like a yarmulke on our donut, a perfectly straight edge little hat for our donut. So let's make this look more like icing. So the edge.
Guys, I need to take a screenshot because #1 victory row. Yep. Okay. I need to share this with my friends. My donut. Guys, how's this donut looking? Okay, I need to finish the donut, and I'm gonna finish it today. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Mm-mm. 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 Ay, sige mo. Mm-mm. Donut beer. Mm-mm. Let me say something. Damn it, he stopped answering. Well, anyways, I'm good.
Is wavy all the way around. So to do this is where we get into the fancy finger magic, because you're typing lots of keys. Anyway, go into edit mode, and we can see straight away that we can't see the mesh, and that's because the solidify modifier is obstructing our view. So these little boxes here, as I mentioned before, like this is to hide it from viewport, but if you want to just hide it from your edit mode, which is the state that we are in right now, the box next to it is the one that you uncheck, which means in object mode, when you're tabbed in object mode, you can still see it, but edit mode, it's it's temporarily hidden for you. So if I was to select one of these points here and move it down, you can see that it's working, but it would be, again, a lot of effort to go round and round and do these one by one. So we want to use that old familiar proportional fall off tool again. So proportional editing on. And now as I move it down, let's just lower the slider way down here, and then let's pull this down. Okay, now we'll find issues. If we move to the side here, we can see the first issue we've discovered is that this is separating from our mesh here. And that's not what icing does. When it dribbles down, it follows the shape of the donut all the way down. So what we want to do is snap, undo it a number of times, snap the vertices to our donut underneath it, right? So for that, we need to turn on snapping up here. Okay, now there are a number of ways to snap in Blender. The default way is increment, which just means the like the grid floor there. Like if you were to just like
why does mine doesn't look like that.
donut underneath it, right? So for that, we need to turn on snapping up here. Okay, now there are a number of ways to snap in Blender. The default way is increment, which just means the like the grid floor there. Like if you were to just like move it around, you can see it's just snapping to the grid floor. Not helpful. But we want to snap it to the face. And now with face snap grid floor. Not helpful. But we want to snap it to the face.
Okay.
And now with face snapping enabled, if we move this down, we can see, let's just look here, that the bottom bit is snapping to the face. But as you might have seen, the top bits, the rest of essentially what is inside of our circle of influence with this proportional editing, that's not being affected. Only the little point that we had selected was affected. So that's not what we want either. Normally that would be enough, but in this particular case, we want to also snap individual elements too. And let's go face project. Now, when we pull this down, you should see that these are also no longer clipping through the donut. But still, we have issues. Why is that? Well, it is actually working correctly. We can see these are not going through the mesh. So why does it look like it is? The reason for that is that there's actually just not enough information here. So if we go side on, you can see, right, like we've got this point here, and then we've got another point down here, and then we've got this long stretch in between, right? So that means that this part of the donut, oh gosh, that goes that goes around like that is just not, there's nothing to snap it to, essentially. So what we need to do to fix this is just add more geometry. So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry. So let's just So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here. So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. Click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponentially more faces because here, where there was, one face before, you can see there's now a lot more, right? 4x. Okay, 4x. Okay. So now if we pull down, we should see it is snapping. And if we go into this mode, you can see that it's now
okay, let's pray to God. Snap. Oh, snap. No. X up. Hello, everybody. I'm excusing.
Okay, so 4x. Okay, 4x. Okay, so now if we pull down, we should see it is snapping.
Okay, let me see. I select something, G, then I tab out, and oh my god, it works. The first thing is working. It's working. I am making donut. Need to share my progress.
And if we go into this mode, you can see that it's now conforming to the mesh in a much more snug way because there's information there for it to use. Now this shading artifact here that we can see, this don't worry about that. We'll fix that in just a moment. But I need to show, because I've shown you like 4 things that we need to enable for this to work. I got to show you one more because if I pull down and if I scroll up, you'll see something. Okay, if I was to click, we get this horrible problem here. And I've done this tutorial enough, and enough people have hit this issue that I need to call it out specifically because it seems to be a big point that a lot of people just don't know where to go from. What's happened is if we use what's it called? The circle of influence for our proportional editing. If that is so high, it's actually high enough to reach the mesh on the other side of the donut. And then because we've got snapping, it's now projecting that, snapping it to the front, which is creating this like something that's a nightmare to fix. I mean, in fact, it's easier just to start from scratch than to try to fix that. So if we want, sorry, there's a lot of noise. To fix this, we need to hide the part of the mesh that we don't want to be influenced by our proportional tool, right? So to do that, there is an easy way to do it. We can actually do it very precisely. So if with this middle bit of our donut here, if I just hold down Alt and then do a left click, as I mentioned before, that selects the ring, okay? And we could do that all the way up, but actually there's a little, I don't know if it's an Easter egg. It's kind of a cool tool that not many people know about. Control plus. That will enable the select more tool. And if you use control plus, control minus goes the other way, you can see that it's expanding out. So control plus will just like select the next vertice along or hide this part of the mesh as though it hides. It's H for hide. So when you're in this state, it looks as though it's been deleted. It's very, sometimes you don't know where part of your mesh, and then you forgot that you've got hide turned on. If parts of your mesh are hidden and you want to bring it back, it's Alt-H. So H to hide and then Alt-H to bring it back. Or if you can't remember it for whatever reason, you can also find it. Okay, it's underneath mesh. There we go. Mesh. Reveal hidden or hide selected. Okay, so that's the other way. But you can get my keyboard shortcut that's in the link. It's free. Just use that and then you won't forget a lot of these handy shortcuts. All right, so now finally, after all that, after 4 different ways and problems to explain, we can now take part of this mesh and drag it down, and it will work correctly. Haha. So now we get to now finally be an artist and go like, what sort of...
Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay. Now I got to share my creation with my friends.
Edge or what sort of icing do I want to make this look like? So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm hitting G to pull it down, and then I'm just single middle click, and then because my cursor is closest to the Z axis, it's now snapping it to the Z axis. So that's why I mentioned before that it's really handy. You don't have to think of the letter and type it in. You just go in the general direction you want to go, and then just tap the middle click of the which is your scroll wheel, right? Middle click. It's such a weird button that you have to call it out. It's the scroll wheel button because it's like no other application seems to use it besides scrolling. But Blender is like, no, we're going to use it for like 90% of the operations is going to be middle click. But anyways, as you can see, I'm not paying particularly too much attention to it, but I'm just making a wavy looking shape around it. You've got like shapes, big, medium, small. It's the recipe for appealing design, big, medium, and small details. But I digress. By the way, I should mention, if you're stuck, don't feel bad because there was certainly a lot of finickiness going on with this donut here, and
Oh wait, I'm not done.
Definitely in the steep part of that curve at the moment. Do make use of my Discord if you are stuck. I created it literally so that people could get instantaneous help. I don't have any other benefit for it, so it's there so that you can find help. Link is in the description, and there's like donut help chat room where you can post screenshots of your problem and then people can help each other out. So do make use of that. Now, our shading issue here, this darkened edge, is actually going to fix itself by fixing another issue. So it's a two birds, one solution kind of problem. This 90-degree edge here for this icing, not ideal. Everybody knows that a real icing would create like a rounded edge there, right? So we can fix that just by adding another subsurf modifier. Because you might remember I mentioned like, yes, if you've got 3 vertices, it'll create like another vertex here and another vertex here, but it'll also like round it out. It'll pull this one back so you end up with a rounded corner. So right here in your modifier stack, we're going to go add modifier, generate subdivision. So right here in your modifier stack, we're going to go end up with a rounded corner. So right here in your modifier stack, so you end up with a rounded corner. So right here in your modifier stack, we're going to go add modifier, generate subdivision surface. Now, the order of these does matter. Okay, you want your solidify at the top and the subdivision after it. So Blender works top to bottom, and it's important it's in this way because you want the
Sí, abuela, ¿qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó, abuela?
Nada, buscarle los zapatos a Liz.
Ah, ¿ve al parque?
Sí.
Ok.
¿Y dónde está tu bolso?
¿Con qué mi bolso? Hablas del moradito, ese.
No, de todos los colores.
Ok.
Yo no lo encontraba, abuela.
No sabía dónde estaba.
Debías decirme.
Porque yo no me acordaba que estaba ahí.
¿Ese computador es nuevo?
No, yo ya tenía esto.
¿Esto te lo compraron?
No, yo tenía esto desde como hace 2 años.
Sí.
Ujú.
Toma.
Gracias, abuela.
Ese fue el que te regaló Joan.
No, este fue el que obtuve inmediatamente cuando se me rompió. Creo que obtuve este como de regalo de uno de mis cumpleaños. Yo estaba con mi papá.
¿Quién te lo dio?
Mi papá lo compró.
Necesito hablar con Raúl muy seriamente.
Mm.
Raúl se está pasando. Y yo no me quiero enojar con Raúl.
¿Quién quisiera?
Yo no me quiero enojar con Raúl, pero se está pasando. Se está pasando, pero de castaño oscuro.
¿Quién quisiera pelear con él? Nadie. Si no tuviesen, pues nadie haría.
Se está pasando y yo no se lo voy a permitir. Y yo me lleno de rabia y se me van todas las vainas en la cabeza. Me boto donde vive y le cojo a la mujer y se la jodo. Porque yo sí soy de esa. Yo no soy Naye que hace bulla y no hace nada. Yo sin avisarle, le toco la puerta, la saco por el pelo y le meto una puñera.
Okay.
Y si Raúl se mete, nos jodemos los dos. Dígaselo a
Alright guys, I'm back. Let's go.
Extrusion to happen first, and then in order to round that edge, has to happen as a secondary step. So solidify on top, subdivision underneath. Now, whilst we're here and we're looking at the close-up, nice little profile of this edge of this icing, another issue to call out, you can see it's got this this shape that goes around. Yes, so far so good. But then it goes up. And it's like, it'll be better if it went around and then tucked in and touched the edge, because that would look more like real liquid would. So we can solve that by just changing one of the settings in the solidify modify. It's not one of those things that you would figure out or know where it is. It's just over time you learn where some of these settings are. But essentially here, the edge data. So we want to change the edge data to say that before you do the solidify step, add a crease on the inner part right here. If we increase this all the way to 1, it now creates a sharpened edge just on that inner part there. So the rest of it is a smoothed edge, but the middle one, there's a crease. So it's making a sharp edge there. And it just gives it just a little bit more realism. Just looks a little bit closer to what you would imagine real. Gives it edge, but the middle one, there's a crease. So it's making a sharp edge there.
No, ya. Dígalo, quítate ese show.
Esta es mi abuela, pero me queda muy lindo el azul con el amarillo.
The edge data to say that figure out or know where it is. It's just over time you learn where some of these settings are. But essentially here, the edge data. So we want to change the edge data to say that before you
Y a mí no me importa ir a la universidad y decirle 4 vainas allá delante de todo el mundo, porque yo no voy a perder nada. Él sí tiene que perder, yo no. Ponte los zapatos, Alisa.
Es verdad.
Y a mí como se me vaya la vaina a la cabeza, yo cojo a la enana esa igual que yo y le meto una palera, porque yo sí soy de las que se jode a la gente. Ve bajando, Victoria, ve bajando. Ya Alisa va bajando.
you do the solidify step, add a crease on the inner part right here. If we increase this all the way to 1, it now creates a sharpened edge just on that inner part there. So the rest of it is a smoothed edge, but the middle one, there's a crease, so it's making a sharp edge there. And it just gives it just a little bit more realism. Just looks a little bit closer to what you would imagine real icing would do. Okay, now for the cool bit. All right, so if you look at reference of donuts, right, yes, you've got these little wavy bits, but where the icing is really liquidy, it'll often break off from this wave here, and it'll create a trail that goes down underneath the donut, right? It just sort of drips all the way down. Whoops, bumped the microphone. So we can do that, but not the way we were doing it before. If we just took one of these points and then like dragged it all the way down like that, there wouldn't be enough information there, right? You can see you just get this like stretched look and it doesn't look great, okay? So essentially we need to give it more information, and we couldn't just do it by like adding more and more subdivision surfaces. We need to actually like break this shape here and create a new shape that goes down. So we need to extrude. So if I select this vertice and then it before, if off from this wave here, and it'll create a trail that goes down underneath the donut, right? It just sort of drips all the way down. Whoops, bumped the microphone. So we can do that, but not the way we were doing it before. If we just took one of these points and then like dragged it all the way down like that, there wouldn't be enough information there, right? You can see you just get this like
Guys, about that, but it doesn't matter.
stretched look, and it doesn't look great, okay? So essentially we need to give it more information, and we couldn't just do it by like adding more and more subdivision surfaces. We need to actually like break this shape here and create a new shape that goes down. So we need to extrude. So if I select this vertice and then the one next to it by holding down Shift, I don't think I mentioned it, but yeah, if you want to select two things at once, it's Shift, select. Anyways, so if we select two vertices like that, we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, like about there where I want the trail to stop. And I'm just going to do click, left click, and it's now placed it there. Now, it's hard to see it, but if I just switch to wireframe, you can see what it's doing. So it's created this breakaway shape here, an entirely new face that's completely separate to what we've got there currently. And what this means is if we go to object mode, you can see it's not just like continuing this form here, it's pulled it down. The trail to stop, and that we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, actually break this shape here and create a new shape that goes down. So we need to extrude. So if I select this vertice and then the one next to it by holding down Shift, I don't think I mentioned it, but if you want to select two things at once, it's Shift, select. Anyways, so if we select two vertices like that, we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, about there where I want the trail to stop. And I'm just going to do click, left click, and it's now placed it there. Now, it's hard to see it, but if I just switch to wireframe, you can see what it's doing. So it's created this breakaway shape here, an entirely new face that's completely separate to what we've got there currently. And what this means is if we go to object mode, you can see it's not just like continuing this form here, it's pulled it down, right? Which is exactly what we want. And in fact, I want it to go even further than that. So I'm going to select those two vertices. I'm going to pull it down again, and I'll do it again. And the reason I've done this 1, 2, 3 is that this detail here is important so that it conforms to the shape of the donut. Because if there's not enough, you're going to have that clipping issue that I showed you earlier. So that's pretty good. And now we're going to do it again. Originally in my earlier versions of the donut, I only did one of these, but then I noticed that in the render, the final render, it's often the most interesting part of the donut. So now I'm thinking, just do it all the way around the donut. Just add the bit that looks cool. Add more of that. So here, I noticed that in the render, the final render, I showed you earlier, comes to the shape of the donut. Because if there's not enough, you're going to have that clipping issue that I showed you earlier. So that's pretty good. And now we're going to do it again. Originally in my earlier versions of the donut, I only did one of these, but then I noticed that in the render, the final render, it's often the most interesting part of the donut. So now I'm thinking, just do it all the way around the donut. Just add the bit that looks cool. Add more of that. So here, wherever there's essentially a big dip is what I'm looking for. Where the liquid would sort of build up and then the surface tension there would be just too much and then it would break away. And it would go down underneath like that. And we'll do another one here. Why not? Like that, and down, and down. And that's pretty good. Haha. Lovely. So that concludes finally this heavy part of the tutorial. So if you're ready to watch the next part, I hope you're not giving up. You can click there on the screen and I'll see you there. Make sure you hit subscribe as well if you haven't. A large number of you don't. But if you want to see more Blender tutorials, that's what you need to do. Self-promotion right there. Thanks, guys. See you in the next part. Congrats. You didn't give up. You made it to part 4. You clicked on the next part of the video. There's always less viewers each video as you go down. So you're here. Well done. Thumbs up. As you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to learn about sculpting. But first, I should call out, if you have a problem with your mesh now, those problems can be amplified the further you go along. So it helps to do a technical check now. Make sure you don't have any problems before we move along. So to look for it, go into edit mode. And first of all, by the way, if you can't see that middle part of your mesh, it's because you remember we temporarily hid it. So you can bring it back by hitting Alt-H, and that will bring back the rest of the mesh. And then we're looking for issues with the mesh,
No, why?
right here. So this is a really common problem following this tutorial because when you're projecting parts of the mesh, if it was like side on to the camera, it will project it that way. And then you can have like overlapping parts.
Okay, maybe not that part, but like you. Okay, what is happening? Okay. Receive. Yep, it now looks better. My donut is looking better and better.
Parts of the mesh. So that creates this artifact here. When you're projecting parts of the mesh, if it was like side on to the camera, it will project it that way. And then you can have like overlapping parts of the mesh. So that creates this artifact here, which will be exaggerated when we add more detail to it. So we just want to drag that back. So turn on snapping, and I'll keep proportional turned off. And then I'm just going to move this back over here just to move each of these points back. Another very common problem is you might have parts that have separated from your mesh. Now you can quickly fix this if you just like selected the point and then hit G to move it. When you're in that state, it's also snapping it to the mesh. Now you could do that all the way along, like select, tap G, then click, select, tap G, then click. But that's, anybody's got time for that. Let's make Blender do the work for us. So there's a tool that's just designed for this, and it's called the Shrink Wrap Modifier. So over to our trusty modifier stack, we're going to add yet another modifier. So add modifier. It's not under generate, it's under deform, which we haven't accessed before. New modifiers. Ooh, the one we're looking for is shrink wrap. And first of all, hasn't done anything because it needs to know what the target is. What is the mesh that we're shrink wrapping our mesh to? So with this little eyedropper tool, you can see when you've clicked it, my cursor's changed to an eyedropper. And now if I hover over objects, I got the name of it. So I want to click on the object that is the donut, and now it's snapped to the donut and made it worse. Why, Andrew, would you make us do that? Remember, the order of your modifier stack matters. So the reason this happened is because we've done it after the solidify modifier. So it works top to bottom. We want the shrink wrap to happen before any of the extrusion happens. So now that it's there, it's correct. And this is what it looks like before, and this is after. And it's subtle, right? And you'll probably see this across your mesh, like little subtle changes where maybe it just separated off the mesh. It wasn't quite a perfect alignment, but this will just correct that. So great. We don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a once-off operation. And now all our mesh. We don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a one. But this will just correct that. So great. We don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a once-off operation. Okay. Right? Correct?
Okay.
Andrew, would you make us do? Now it's snapped to the donut. The object that is the donut, hover over objects, I got the name of it, or mesh 2. So with this little eyedropper tool,
I forgot.
Designed for this, and it's called the Shrink Wrap Modifier. So over to our trusty modifier stack, we're going to add yet another modifier. So add modifier. It's not under generate, it's under deform, which we haven't accessed before. New modifiers. Ooh, the one we're looking for is shrink wrap. And first of all, hasn't done anything because it needs to know what the target is. What is the mesh that we're shrink wrapping our mesh to? So with this little eyedropper tool, you can see when you've clicked it, my cursor's changed to an eyedropper. And now if I hover over objects, I got the name of it. So I want to click on the object that is the donut, and now it's snapped to the donut and made it worse. Why, Andrew, would you make us do that? Remember, the order of your modifier stack matters. So the reason this happened is because we've done it after the solidify mod. So if it works top to bottom, we want the shrink wrap to happen before any of the extrusion happens. So now that it's there, it's correct. And this is what it looks like before, and this is after. And it's subtle, right? And you'll probably see this across your mesh, like little subtle changes where maybe it just separated.
Okay, let me see. Before and after. 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 Oh, I see a difference. The before and the after. Huh? Hey, I do see a difference. Thanks, shrink wrap. You're a life. Not a lifesaver, really. But
It off the mesh, which wasn't quite a perfect alignment, but this will just correct that. So great. We don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a once-off operation. And now all our mesh should be perfectly flat. And assuming you haven't got any other issues going on, again, make sure you use my Discord. If you do have issues and you need someone to help, make use of the community. So use that and post your problem, and I'm sure people can help out. All right. So we want to do some sculpting. Now, why do we want to sculpt? Well, because if you look at reference photos of donuts with icing on them, you'll see that icing is obviously a liquid, and liquid does weird things. One of the weird things that it does is that it will pool in certain areas. It's not like a uniform amount all the way on it. So the most obvious being like at the end of this trail here, there would be more that would accumulate at the end there. And I think the reason for it is that because it's a viscous fluid, once it runs out of enough fluid, there's not enough to kind of push it forward, but there's enough for it to build up. So you would have like a build.
okay, let me just send this to the Discord. And to send this on the Discord, I need to say, is this a W or an L? Because I need to know, is this a W or an L, boys? Okay. W. Okay. W or L. Upgrade. W or L upgrade.
Build up here on each of these ends, but you would also have buildups all along the edge. And you can see it in reference photos. Like here, we've got this like clear, was it like a glaze? And basically the areas there where it looks whiter, that's a thickened area. So we essentially want to replicate that across our donut. So we can't do that currently. Like if you go into edit mode, we don't have any mesh to work with because the extrusion, the thickened part is happening via this modifier. So we need to make the modifier real. So again, we're just going to apply it. Drop down, apply. Now in edit mode, we have that part of the mesh is happening via this modifier. So we need to make the modifier real. So again, we're just going to apply it. Drop down, apply. Now in edit mode, we have that part of the mesh to work with. So we could, if you wanted to, come in here and like select the points that you want to add, you know, a bulge to, and then very carefully come in and tap G, and then, oh, I've got snapping turned on, turn that off. Pull this out, right? And go like that and go, yep, there's a little bulge there, but that's very tedious to first select a point, then tap a key to move it. It's very tedious. So that's really like you just need to use another tool to do the job. So edit mode is one tool, and it's good for like very precise. Turn that off. Pull this out, right? And go like that and go, yep, there's a little bulge there, but that's very tedious to first select a point, then tap a key to move it. Select the points that you want to add, you know, a bulge to, and then very carefully come in and tap G, and then, oh, I've got snapping turned on, turn that off. Pull this out, right? And go like that and go, yep, there's a little bulge there, but that's very tedious to first select a point, then tap a key to move it. It's very tedious. So that's really like you just need to use another tool to do the job. So edit mode is one tool, and it's good for like very precise things when you need to get precise things. But for more like organic shapes, more freehand stuff, that's where sculpting comes in. So at the top here, we've just been flipping between object and edit mode, but the one underneath it is sculpt mode. So when we go into that mode, you'll see that we have on the left-hand side all of these tools that appear.
God. Oh God.
And
no.
I mean, this isn't a sculpting.
Oh God, no. No. Oh God, no.
Like tutorial, really. We're just really going to scratch the surface. But they do different things, different sculpting things. Like, let's just use the default tool here. Can't really see much happening. Let's just turn up the strength and the size of it. Like, it just pulls out that part of it. And even that quick little one stroke, imagine if you had to select each of those points and pull them out one by one. Like, that's why this tool is the appropriate tool for this kind of job, right? Because it's just very quickly going to enable us to add lots of complex shape. Very cool. So the tool that we're looking for is actually, it's this one, the inflate brush, which is just conveniently the I hotkey, inflate. By the way, if you want.
Oh wait, let me see a meme.
Very long chocolate bar. This won't be the first time I put something long and brown in my mouth.
Yeah.
To change the size of brushes in Blender. I mean, you've got these ones here. You've also got the strength slider here.
Inflate.
But there is a hotkey just to change the size of the brush with F. So F to change the size of the brush. And you just pull out with your cursor to make it bigger and then pull in to reduce it and then do a single left click to confirm. You can also change the strength with Shift F. So Shift F, pull out, click, and then Shift F, pull in, click. Anyways, so if I was to draw on this, you can see that I'm inflating that edge. I could also inflate here, but you very quickly realize, like, look at that. Look at that. What is that, right? The eye is going to see that. It's a pro tip. Your eye is like, if you're going low res, don't go low res for things that are round because your eye is very quickly going to spot low poly things. Actually, just last night I was playing Spider-Man, the Miles Morales one, and there was like this coffee cup that was on a table, and then you walk, and it looks fine, like as a background asset, but then part of it, the mission, you had to go up and read something on the table, and you had to get close to this coffee cup, and it was like 8 vertices. It just looked like almost looked like a nut on a wheel of a car, right? Just like that jagged. So, anyways. What I'm saying is this is a rounded form, so we need more information. We need more detail to sculpt on. The reason this is jagged and the reason there's not enough detail here is that just even though we have a subsurf modifier, a subdivision modifier, it's applying it after we do the sculpt mode. So when you're in sculpt mode, it's still just using your raw mesh here, and then it does this as a secondary step. So if we want to sculpt into this detail, we need to
I need to find the inflate on sculpt mode. Sculpt mode. Then like, where's the thing? Where are the things at? Oh God, no. Sculpt mode, sculpt draw. Where is this? Strength pressure? Sculpt draw? Where is this? What has happened? Oh God, no, I opened Microsoft Edge. Oh God, the fans. It's not shutting down. Orange. No, fuck. Can I edit his message? I'm not. I'm pretty sure.
Apply this. So I'm going to use more than one. I'm going to use two because I want to have even more detail. So importantly, by the way, if you're applying a subdivision modifier, even though you've got two levels here, it will always use just the viewport. So your render amount here could be whatever, but when you hit apply, it's just going to apply whatever is in the viewport. So I'm going to go 2 levels and hit apply. Now look at this. We'll always use just the view. If you're applying a subdivision modifier, even though you've got 2 levels here, it will always use just the viewport. So your render amount here could be whatever, but when you hit apply, it's just going to apply whatever is in the viewport. So I'm going to go 2 levels and hit apply. Now look at this. Whoo.
Okay, my PC is gonna crash, but who cares? Apply. Rip off my modifiers. Also, boop. Oh my god, damn it.
We have 16 times the detail because we had level 1, which would be 4x, a 4x multiply, and then 4x of 4x, 16. So we have 16 times the vertices to play with. So now when we go into sculpt mode, look at it now. When we sculpt, look at that. So much more room to work with and much more fun. So now that I'm in that...
Okay, but my Blender doesn't have it. I'm in sculpt mode. Oh no. Oh god. What's going on? Nope, 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 nope. Nope, 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 nope. Get out of sculpt mode. Object mode. Edit mode. Ask. I don't want it. There it is. So where's the inflation? I mean inflate. Okay, I do not know. Inflate. Oh God, no. Shift A, Shift A. Shift S, D, Q, Shift F. What am I doing? I wish I had saved. Oh, it's gone. Yes. It is gone now. Don't know what I do.
State, I'm going to just do little circles with this brush on each of these points here. And the reason I'm doing like little circles like this is
Okay. Yeah, Well, he didn't teach. There's nothing going on. He didn't teach me how to do it. How the fuck? Okay. Okay, think sculpt mode. You helped me. Think sculpt mode. You. Bye bye. Hello. Maybe if I make this. Oh, it's doing something. I can feel it. Okay, I'm gonna put better strength. Yes. It's being strong. Oh fuck, no. Please go back. Okay. Remember, stand proud. You are strong. But nah, I'd win. Don't. I donut. Are you stand proud because you left it all behind, or are you strong because you're the one? Because you're the one who yeah. Okay, it's making it a little bit more bulbous. It's making it a little bit more thick. Okay. It's being a little bit more thick and really thicker. Who doesn't like it? It's a little bit thicker. Okay. It's working. It's not shutting down. It's Is that how you say sculpt? Oh yeah, it is.
is that by default the stroke state is what is it, space. You can switch it to airbrush if you want, and then you can just click and hold it there, but I find that to actually be like harder to control, so I just keep it in space mode and then just do like little circles, and then that enables you to just kind of continue adding more pressure as you move your mouse. So a little circle like that, and there you go. Very quickly already we have a more interesting looking shape across it. So another brush, another tool, I guess you call. Is it a brush? Or I think it's technically I call brushes. But anyways,
Okay,
another one.
I'm gonna charge my PC. They'll be right back. Right. Oh, convenient. Right, I'm gonna probably like end the tutorial when this is like before I have to sculpt and stuff. So yeah. Don't you wanna don't you wanna don't you want to battle to win a battle? Prize a BFD. Don't you want to battle? All right, this just outright brain rot.
One that you use all the time is grab, and conveniently it's the hotkey G. And what this does is just like pushing clay with your finger. It's like
You make my heart burn. You make my fucking heart burn. You make my heart burn. You make my heart burn. And I think I'm gonna end here and like 6, 7, 8, 9. I've done 1, 2, 3, and that's 4, 5, 6, and 8. Oh my! I got.
It's really cool. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm actually just exaggerating.
Wait, what is this called?
It's like technically I call brushes. But anyways, another one that you use all the time is grab. And conveniently it's the hotkey G. And what this does is just like pushing clay with your finger. It's like
Oh yeah, it is.
It's really cool. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm actually just exaggerating the design. Because that is what makes appealing design. It's exaggerating the addition and subtraction that you see in a shape, even though in the real world you might not see this like tapered thing like that. Because it's got this bulbous end, you want to draw more attention to that kind of globule at the end there. And to do that, yeah, if you just make this a little bit tapered using this tool, it can do that. And we get to learn about a new tool in Blender, which is the whole point of this tutorial. So, yeah. All right. Pull this around. Pull this around.
Nope.
Just click and drag and click and drag. I could change the shape, size of the brush with F. And you've got more time than me. So maybe make this better than what I'm doing really quickly. But just get, generally a shape like that, and it should look a little nicer. Generally a shape like that, and it should look a little nicer.
Okay, maybe I'll do it till 5.
So now let's do that raised edge all the way around the rim of this. Now, in previous versions of this tutorial, I said just use the inflate brush and then just like draw across it. The problem with this is that this is so imprecise, and you can accidentally like draw over another bit, and then you look at it side on and you get these like noticeable like divots across the donut. And it's not very, it's very hard to do because you keep like accidentally clicking off it and then on it. And you get this like jagged, like dig. It's not very appealing. The point is, so let's go back. We can learn about another tool. It's another excuse to learn about another tool. And that tool is called the mask tool. So it's actually in the list here, but I never remember what it is. It's just hit M for mask, and it's this one. And what this enables you to do is if you just draw on it, you get this grade shape, right? And then
what is that on the middle?
when you're using another tool, like say you switch to the inflate brush now, and if you draw over this, let me just increase this. Yeah, if you drew over this, you can see it's applying an inflation to everything except the area that is dark. And that's how you can create like, a skin lesion on a zombie or something like that. So a mask is very useful in sculpting, used a lot along the rim there. And then we're going to apply a constant inflate value to just along the rim there. And then we're going to apply a constant inflate value to just.
Okay. In that case, let me just. Oh no, I'm a newbie on Blender. Maybe I shouldn't do that. God dang it. I guess it's like this now. Nobody will pay attention to it. So it doesn't matter. Conveniently, it's
the area that we've masked. So first use the mask tool. Mask. And it doesn't really make sense to use like a half opaque mask. So we're going to set the strength all the way to 1. And then I'll use a brush size about here. So essentially, where do I want the inflation? Like, do I want this much inflation on the rim? No, probably something about here. And then I'm just going to paint a darkened value all the way across it.
okay.
I just want to make sure that it's, fairly even. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but fairly even across it. And I obviously don't want it to be in this part because that, the liquid has flowed all the way down and it's broken the trail and it's gone down there. So I don't want any raised area there. And again, I apologize if this was like tedious, but it's a way to learn Blender piece by piece. Okay. Hey, speaking of which, I forgot. With the sculpt.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's just like color over this. Just need to color this. All this out. Just color. Spray paint it out. Just do my hardest. I can be harsh. Just paint it all. This is surprisingly easy. Well, it's not really easy, and I'm not really having fun. But Blender Donut, because Donut.
Sculpt tools in Blender, for whatever reason, it has assumed by default that you might want to sculpt on the other side of your mesh. So you can see I've got this smear here, and that's because somewhere I was painting over here, I went through the mesh and it painted on the other side of the mesh over there. Very annoying. So I can undo it. It's just easier than like repainting that whole thing. And what you want to do with your mask tool is underneath brush, set it to front faces only. And that means when you paint, it should set it to front faces.
Okay. Gonna like Control C it all out. Then I will redo it again. And alright, time to paint. I don't know if I didn't make an error, but I don't care. I am following this guy's tutorial just to make another donut again, like 2 more years. Another tutorial, another version of Blender, another donut. I have now downloaded Blender. I am now creator of donut. I don't. Okay, no. Pretty sure that song is copyright. I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to set a flame in your heart. Okay, now it should be fine.
Is only. And that means when you paint, it should mean that as you draw, it could still happen, just be careful, but it should happen less. It shouldn't happen like on the opposite side of the same mesh. Anyways, it should happen less. By the way, I didn't call it out because it's not essential, but if you do ever want to isolate and only see the selected object, / is the isolation mode. So / on the number pad or the actual normal keyboard will pull you in and out of that state. Anyway, so now with the mask brush, with front faces only enabled, I can paint along it and should happen less, essentially. All right. I don't know what to say. But this doesn't take long once you've set it up. And assuming you've got the strength of 1, by the way, you don't want to have areas with like half opaque, right? Because we want to have a constant value across it as we inflate it. And we should get a nice raised edge that goes all the way along the donut.
Edge, Microsoft Edge.
Okay, great. Just clean it up if you've got any areas that look a little untidy, a little unkempt. Yep. Awesome. All right. So, as I mentioned, the mask will actually mask out the area, so you can't paint on it. We obviously want to only paint on the area that we mask. So we want to invert it by just hitting Control-I, same hotkey as Photoshop, etc.
Control-I.
Then, obviously, if we went to the inflate brush and then we just painted, like, yes, we're only now painting onto that area, but it also doesn't solve our problem of like different values across it. So we want to apply a uniform inflation on just these areas. So want to apply a uniform inflation on just these areas. So there is a tool in the Sculpt tools called, where is it? Mesh Filter. So I will be honest, it's probably the laziest implementation of a tool in Blender. Like, mesh filters are not really well documented. You kind of have to just learn how they work. But unlike all these other brushes here, the way this one works is it's applying a uniform value to the entire mesh. So it doesn't actually matter where you click on the mesh, it's going to apply it. And it's applying what is in the filter types listed here. So if I just click, this is the other thing I have to learn. If I drag to the right, I'm inflating. If I drag to the left, I'm deflating.
Okay, so waiting. Messed up my donut. Okay, Control C. Now, if I move to the right. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. What do they want me to do?
And sort of subtracting the opposite direction. You just kind of have to learn that that's how this specific tool works. My theory is, by the way, to go on a rant, ZBrush's user experience and interface is so arcane, so badly hodgepodge together from ideas over the last 2 decades. They never had any thought in the process. They just lumped it all in there. And Blender's sculpting tools competes with that. So they're like, hey, yeah, the filter tools, yeah, they're not the easiest to understand, but at least we're not ZBrush. That's my theory. It's my working theory I'm going with. But anyways, point is now that we're in this, you could see we're applying a uniform value to everything. Hooray for us. I might also, I'm going to set the strength of this to 0.1, and that just means that as I move the cursor, it's applying less of a value for the movement, so I can use smaller movements. The other thing, though, is this is a little like, it almost looks, if we go into object mode, it looks like a tube almost around the edge of it. It's not very nice. It basically, the edge that we've got here is too hard. So we can smooth out that edge by using mask, smooth mask. Okay. Now, if we use the inflate, just to the right a little bit, I'm just going to go with that. Let's go object mode and see how that looks. Go with that. Let's go object mode and see how.
That looks mighty fine. I got no. Okay, object mode.
How that looks. That's pretty good. I might actually go just a little bit more, just exaggerate it slightly more. There we go. Great. So, yeah, that's roughly it. Now, there's a little bit of artifacting there because the way the mask works is it's kind of that feathering thing. It's not very exact, and it's kind of got some values in between it. So we can smooth that out in sculpt mode by, first of all, just clearing the mask and then using the smooth tool. By default, it's too high, so just turn it down. And I'm just going to smooth that edge. First of all, just clearing the mask and then using the smooth tool in sculpt mode by, first of all, just clearing the mask and then using the smooth tool. By default, it's too high, so just turn it down. And I'm just going to smooth that edge. By default, it's too high. Mask and then using the smooth tool. By default,
Okay, smooth too. Yep.
oh, it's too high, so just turn it down.
Okay, 300 and whatever. 323. Yeah, that sounds mighty fine.
And I'm just going to smooth that edge, and that'll just sort of clear up some of this artifact.
Okay. They want me to just clear this up. Okay. Let's clear it up. Clear this up. Yep. It's not cleared up. Clear this up. Okay, now it's fine. It's pretty fine. What the fuck are neocronut? Oh god. Keep getting
the model file form.
oh god, not this.
Facting, it's a little too high. For whatever reason, the smooth tool, which also you can access at any point when you're in sculpt mode just by holding down shift, and it'll temporarily invoke the smooth tool. So you'll be in this mode and then breathing this out. Boop, boop, boop. And that's it. Lovely. Hey, if you've made it this far,
Oh wait, let me smooth this out. Boop a doop a doop. I need to smooth you out. I need to smooth you out. What? Too many things. Too many vertices. No. Okay.
3D is in the cards. It's for you because we've done some fairly complex things. So if you're a beginner and you're just getting started in Blender, congrats, because it is a steep learning curve, but you have learned some very complex modeling and some sculpting. So congrats, you've made it this far.
Okay. Portrait.
The little birds that they are.
This is a lot of people.
Grandma?
How about somebody more experienced, like me?
Fine.
Oh god.
The little birds that they are.
This is a lot of people.
Grandma?
How about somebody more experienced, like me?
Fine.
I'm not the most experienced.
La contaminación y el sudor no tienen por qué ser parte de tu piel. Nueva Gillette Mac 3 Carbono con carbón activado y la mejor banda lubricante de Mac 3. remueve impurezas de la piel. Con Gillette.
Oh, well, let me try.
What's happening? Help me!
All right, everybody. Nobody's watching this, but to everybody who's watching the stream, go file. I'm gonna boop. I'm gonna go file, save as. Maybe download. No, maybe desktop. Where should download? Home, desktop, documents. No, I'm gonna call it donut progress. Donut progress.blend. Donut progress _ blend. I'm gonna put it on desktop and save as. Save donut progress _ blend. And goodbye, guys.